Did you want to go back to your other filter or other string? Because now we're both zoomed in. I didn't know if you did it on purpose or by accident.
Oh no, I did. No, well, I did. Yeah,
Okay,
I'd like for us to be together. Okay,
gotcha.
so we are good. Hey, everybody. Five, four, three, two, one. Hey, everybody. Santita Jackson here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today, right here. I'm getting some feedback. Let me start again.
Is it feedback from mine or yours?
I think it's from yours.
That's weird. Give me a second.
Are you wearing earphones?
No, but I
No.
usually don't. No, but my setup usually doesn't do
Yeah, I shot a
feedback.
show already today.
Try it now.
Okay. Hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today here on the Santita Jackson Show. Please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Become my friend on Santita Jackson and Friends, and like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And I am on X at Santita J, at Santita J. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's get right to it. Um, and Nico House, the duopoly destroyer. I just love you to pieces. Now, where can we find you? I'm gonna share this so you can put this up on your stream too.
So I'm on Twitter at Real Nico House, Instagram at Real Nico House, TikTok as well, same thing. And it's Nico with a K, not a C. It's Greek, random, I know, but it's with a K. And YouTube as well. You can find me. You can just search my name, Nico House, or For the People podcast. Oh, and on Hotspot
Absolutely.
Media as well. I'm a content creator for Hotspot Media.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this with you. Please share this with your followers because we are on one of the five or six independent terrestrial radio stations in the country. And we're really pleased to be here. And they give me a lot of space. And some people get a little upset by the things that we say. But, I will say Chad Larson and my AM 950 radio family have been very generous. And I thank them for allowing all of us to be here because we are expressing viewpoints. Um, Barbershop talk, beauty shop talk, if you will. Talk that
Mhm.
you have when you're in the grocery store. Things
Back in
that
the
you're
day,
not.
it wasn't considered good radio if you ain't make some people mad, right? That's how it used to be.
I mean, come on, it's something. It's something. And so I'm really glad to have you because, of course, in my meanderings in social media, I have seen you and I saw you on Sabby Sab's podcast, and I absolutely love her. I got to get her on the show. And I have always been into independent thinkers and independent media because you know anything about me, that's my background. And you pay the price for being independent and for speaking for the people, but you pay the price for wherever you go. Um, Thurgood Marshall paid a price when he went from being in the public sector to being a Supreme Court justice, but we needed him there.
Mm,
So the price that he paid, okay, he didn't have the same freedoms that he had, but he made us free because he was there. And that's
mm.
how I look at it. I'm like, we all do trade offs in life, and I'm all right with that. As long as it's for the greater good, I can live with it. Really, I can. But, that having been said, this young man does great work. And what I love is that you do first class research and you connect the dots.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got known for. So I wasn't a radio show host. That's not
Mhm.
how people originally knew me. I was actually a consultant and organizer. I did a lot of work in the political space, independent, and I only really got involved with the Democrats with the Bernie campaign.
Mhm.
And I was a speechwriter as well, debate coach. And so, but I guess because of all of those skills, it worked out whenever I decided to do radio, when I got invited to
Mhm.
do radio. But I ended up discovering, kind of accidentally, that the elections in 2016 were rigged. The primaries were rigged. I was the co-founder of the DNC fraud lawsuit. So because I happened to be in the middle of everything, I was the only one who actually had the purview of what was going on the ground in the official campaign with the volunteers. combined with the know-how to research about PACs, super PACs, the transfer of funds and things like that. So we put an investigative team together where we could prove it all. And we did actually make it all the way up to the Supreme Court until it was dismissed, unfortunately, by the one Republican we didn't want to get the case to decide, which was Clarence Thomas, who was obviously the guy who Joe Biden helped put in power. So that was the one guy we didn't want to make the decisions. But, that's how it goes.
Well, I mean, I'm like, where were you in 1984? Were you even born then? No.
I was born in 1988. 88.
There you go. See, that's what we saw. And because Bernie Sanders came out of the Jackson campaign, he was ready. And, I mean, and because that's what we experienced. And, you saw that this is not what you think it is. Mm-hmm. That having been said, you have to get in there to see it. This is it's not an outsider's game. You got to get in it and you go, oh, wow.
It is not just federal. It's not just presidential or federal elections. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kenneth Spaulding.
Yeah.
The former lawyer, or he actually, I think he retired, but he was a lawyer who worked on the OJ case, actually. He ran for governor. I worked on his campaign in North Carolina. And they were trying to steal votes. Then they had to kind of stop their campaign just to get out all the moles that they had from the Democratic Party because they were worried he was going to be a threat to the Democratic nominee at the time, who was actually currently the governor, Ray McGovern, not Ray McGovern, the governor of North Carolina. But yeah, it's like I saw it then, and I saw that there is a very specific and particular malice for Black independent-minded thinkers. There is, it's different. They always both parties tend to rig as much as they
do that. And the thing is, I'm convinced that what they do is they will let the progressives run. They rig you out, and then they make you promise to support the ticket.
Yep. And they promise to make you look crazy if you dare challenge them.
Well, the thing for us, what Reverend was doing which was quite honestly was unique. We were completely locked out of the process. Number one, we found out that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party were not government entities. Not that he didn't know that, but they're private corporations.
Yes, they are.
And so, and then they have boards, and they determine who they and they do behave that way. And it is,
even though technically it's illegal. It's so technically. So during the DNC for all law, so I don't mean to cut you off, but this is a very important point that you made. What I found out while doing the research, that they technically are a 501c4 organization, which effectively is like a charity, an NGO. So they actually do have a charter that they are by law mandated to follow, because the number one source of lawsuits against charitable organizations or NGOs is that they break their charters and receive money under false pretense. Mm-hmm. So in the case of the Democratic Party, they can receive money by promising that they're trying to put the best candidate forward and that they're going to follow their charter to do so. Technically speaking, if they break their charter in order to put the candidate they choose forward, that is illegal. And one of the federal judges, Judge Locke, when they tried to make the argument in court that they can pick whatever candidate they want, they literally tried to make the argument in court. I'm not joking. And he said, we don't recognize the trivialization of your charter in that way. So they said we lost on jurisdictional issues, but I really believe that it was one of those situations that it would be such a ripple effect, because it would have been a $900 million class action lawsuit that would have set off a huge ripple effect. But that's when I learned, I'm like, hold up, the political parties are private? And that's how they've been able to get away with so much regarding the elections, the same way when it comes to election machines, right? Those are owned by private corporations.
And there was an HBO movie, documentary about 25 years ago, at the turn of the century, where this woman was looking for vote fraud, and not
vote fraud, election fraud,
not voter fraud, but vote fraud.
Oh, just election fraud, generally speaking. Got you.
Yeah, she said, these machines, because Reverend Jackson never liked the machines. He said, that's not going to be a good thing. Mm-hmm. And they put in Nico House, and Santita Jackson came out. That's how. Yep. And so it's important for us to understand. I am not. What I'm saying to you, everybody, is that we have the system that we have, but it's got to change in order for us to be free.
Yes.
It's got to change, and we have to have more than binary choices. And I'm
Hmm.
not speaking for Reverend Jackson. I'm speaking for me, because quite frankly, we wanted him to leave the party, but
Yeah.
but what
I
we
saw a
did
lot of his
know.
supporters want him to leave, and I said the same thing in 2016. I said I wish that he would leave because I remember, or I researched rather, the experience that he went through with the Democratic Party. I'm like, this party is irredeemable if they can take some of their greatest champions from activism in the civil rights movement and still treat them like that without consequence.
But the thing is, our people didn't want to go.
Mm,
See, that's the thing. Is you got to be very careful. Cheers turn to jeers on a dime.
yeah,
And when you're leading, oh, heavy is the head that bears the crown.
that's very
Leadership is
true.
leadership is hard. You can't say everything that you know, and you can't get so far ahead of your crowd that they don't see you.
You got to spoon feed them. You got to spoon feed them. That's what I tell people all the
And you gotta
time.
and you gotta leave them alone. So I Reverend had continued, and even from his wheelchair, he's still running the race.
Hmm.
That he's doing the assignment that Dr. King gave him. And that's all I can ask. And all I can do is try to be helpful and share with people what we have seen, what we know, which is why I found you so enormously attractive, because I felt that your politics were pure. I remember have you heard of Jack Odell?
No, but I'm also
Jack,
bad with names.
no, no, it's okay. He was the head of our international affairs department.
Okay.
What's significant about him is that he worked for Dr. King. President Kennedy asked Dr. King to fire him, and he had to let him go because he'd been a seaman, I think, in the 30s, and
Okay.
in the 20s and 30s, really earlier in the American experience, you had more space to be communist, socialist, socialist.
Yes. Before
And
the
he
Dulles
was
brothers came into the picture with after
no,
after
no, no.
they
Tell people,
huh?
tell people.
No, I was saying, oh yeah, just before the Dulles brothers came into the picture after they overthrew Henry Wallace at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago.
That's
And
right.
they literally they took out books and rewrote history so that people wouldn't know what had happened basically between the Truman administration and the Kennedy administration. I mean, there's a lot you got to do some research to find it, but
Hmm.
there that that's the only time in history we've ever seen an incumbent vice president be replaced. We know everybody and their mom knows it was rigged. He won, and then the next day they bribed a bunch of people and then had them all turn their votes. FDR, unfortunately, and I guess this is a pattern that we've seen throughout history, let it happen. And nobody likes to talk about that fact. Truman was going to desegregate the country, right? And people don't talk about that. But because of the decision that was made that night in the Democratic Party allowing it to happen, we got the atomic bomb, we got the CIA. Communism became about it's the caricature, right? Everything that it was almost like every accusation was a confession. They would say, "Oh, we're going to spy. The communists are going to spy on you and arrest you," and the U.S. is actually doing everything that they were claiming Russia was doing. So, and that all started really because we allowed democracy to be undercut that day at the convention with Henry Wallace.
Well, they say the last president we had was John F. Kennedy. And
Mm,
you see so many machinations. That having been said, I want people to vote, please, because that's your voice. And you got to
yeah.
get the only way this American project works, the way any of these projects work, is when the people get involved. So I
Mhm.
want you to go, as we continue this conversation, go to vote.org. As of Friday, South Carolina, the door closes for you to register and be able to vote in the November election. Go to vote.org, even if you've registered to vote. Check
Yeah,
your voter status. They have
especially in
purged,
South Carolina, you need to check about 2 or 3 times.
well, every day, because guess what? They have purged 1 million plus voters in Texas alone.
Yeah,
1 million.
yeah. They did the
So
same in New York in 2016 during the Democratic primary.
they do.
Go ahead.
No, no, no. I mean, just tell them. I mean, really. I
Yeah.
don't want just to come from me. I'm glad. I'm sorry that it's happening, but I'm glad you've seen it. And
Yeah,
I
people
want.
don't know. It's people do not. It's crazy because this stuff. I've been in rooms, which I'm sure you can attest to the same thing. I've been in rooms where CNN and Fox News and MSNBC are there, and we're telling details about how people were purged. I mean, one of my videos, like, I didn't know that there were that many people in the room at the time because I kind of went black. I was so pissed at what I had heard from the city council in New York City about how they were just dismissive of everyone who had their votes or their registrations purged. I mean, you're talking about this in New York. So these are people who have been registered at the same place for decades.
Mhm.
And that primary, because they didn't know if it was going to go to Hillary or Bernie, because of certain areas like Brooklyn, for example, which they knew for certain was probably going to go to Bernie, all of a sudden people were being purged. And these people were like, they're taking days off work. They're taking the kids out of daycare. I mean, it's not easy to vote in the US, despite what people might believe. And they found out they're purged. They think that, oh, well, we're leaving a democracy. So if I go in and air my grievances, this is going to be resolved. And it was the opposite. People were getting thrown out. They were being ignored. And we made such a ruckus that day that the head, I don't remember what her name was, but basically she had a law firm, but she was removed. And then her law firm had to shut down. It took a while, but she was the one who was kicking everybody out. And she was literally laughing at people who were talking about how their votes got, how their registration got purged, or they're even switched to Republican at the last minute. And they've never been a Republican their entire lives. And there were cameras there. There were news organizations there, and only the independents talked about it. It never made MSNBC. It never made CNN because if people saw how pissed off and how emotional those people were, because these are people who have participated in Democratic politics their entire lives, it would have been a huge scene that Hillary didn't want to deal with. And so they just act like it never happened. The footage is probably somewhere, but it never gets shown.
Well, have you seen the movie Vigilantes Inc.?
No, I have not.
What I'd like to do, I want you to look at it, and I want you to circle back with me next week. And I'd like for us to have like a simultaneous viewing and then have a discussion about it.
Okay.
And we need to do it like in the next week or two.
Where can you find it at? Is it on Netflix or Amazon or?
Leonardo DiCaprio's father is Greg Palast's producing partner. Greg Palast is a New York Times bestselling writer, economist, journalist who uncovered the fraud in the 2000 election. He had to go to England, if you remember that, to get the story told. Best democracy money can buy. Well, the KKK rebranded themselves. They're no longer the Ku Klux Klan. They're now Vigilantes Inc.
Really? That I did not know.
Oh, yeah. And I bet you didn't know that Governor Kemp of Georgia, in the Georgia territory, slavery was illegal until his family brought enslaved Africans over. He and his family introduced slavery into Georgia and the Georgia territories. You can't make this stuff up. So I want you to go to saveyourvote.org. You can watch it for free thanks to Leonardo DiCaprio and Jamie Foxx. Saveyourvote.org. Now, when you see it, contact me and let's arrange to get all of our people together and watch it. And then I'll go over to Rainbow Push and we'll put you up on the screen and we can talk back and forth.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out because I did not know that.
Oh,
I'm not surprised. But I don't know why the KKK felt the need to rebrand themselves. It ain't like, they're not the ones who got labeled terrorist organizations. It's the Black Panthers that literally have to still hide. They label Black Panthers terrorists, and then they let the KKK basically infest all of the police force, the feds, all of it. I mean, it's kind of.
Look, this is how as long as just don't forget my pastor's wife, Mrs. Luther May Evans, used to say, oh, it's dangerous to forget.
Hey, that's simple, but it's profound. I tell people all the time, I used to have I have ADHD. So I had this big problem with repeating. I don't like to repeat things. It's always been like a weird thing for me. Even when my teachers would try to when your teachers are teaching, they have to say the same thing about 3 to 4 times for people who didn't get it. I used to get irritated and I would just start talking to whoever was beside me. Right. So I had to teach myself when I started doing radio in my show that it's okay to repeat things that you've already said or that you've already learned, because I began to realize that people were forgetting what had happened in the past because they would just repeat the same cycle of support or the same cycle of talking points the moment that someone fear mongered them into doing so. Right. So
Mhm.
what we're seeing right now, I made it very clear how I felt about Kamala in 2020. It was not nobody's a stranger to that. I got a lot of heat for it too. I mean, I had basically, funny story, my car got towed because of fake tickets that were put on my vehicle whenever I was in California to cover the convention and cover what Kamala had been doing, like what she was doing as DA of San Francisco, Attorney General of California. I came back maybe within like 6 hours before I got to my apartment. My car had been towed with tickets that I had never gotten. So like I paid the price for that, but I had no problem this time reminding people exactly who Kamala is because I knew they're going to put this idea that you should vote for her and ignore everything she's done to the Black community and the community in general because Trump. They're not going to explain to you how she's different. They're just going to tell you that Trump is worse. And I'm like, okay, so explain to me what the problem with Trump is that you might have. They'll tell me. I said, okay, well, Kamala did this, but even more so. And I can give, everything, any and everything you could think of, right? And people are like, whoa, I forgot about that, or I forgot about that. And that's why you gotta remind people. And it's not their fault. It's just we got so much stuff going on in our lives
Oh,
that it's easy to forget. But it's also the point. They make it a point to make sure you forget. It's a psychological operation as well.
well, psyops, isn't that what it's called? Like you're a
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy theorist, which that's to keep you from digging into going past the official story into what really happened.
Amen. That is the truth. You know, my grandma before she passed away, she used to say, "You know what, baby? Anything that you think, the worst thing that you could possibly think of about the government, it's worse than that." That's what she used to tell me. And
Okay.
she wasn't into politics. I mean, she like watched it because when I started doing my show, she started watching it more. But she just knew because she lived in the Berkeley area before she moved to San Francisco, and she just saw so much. And even some of the stuff that my grandpa experienced while in the military, which she never even talked about, but she just was like, it was a lot. She saw so much, and she just like, it's crazy how a lot of people from her generation almost get gaslighted into forgetting everything that they experienced, or like they gaslighted and they're trying to convince them that they didn't watch Kennedy get assassinated, like that commission that was put together wasn't BS. Right? Like
Oh,
I mean, you look at the papers from that time. Still, they're like, how many people believe that the government was involved in the Kennedy assassination? It's like more than half of the country knew that
well,
the
it,
government was
it
involved.
completely split the country.
Yeah.
80% of Americans believed in the integrity of our government up until November 22nd, 1963.
Mhm.
80% disbelieved in the integrity of the government, which is why the 60s exploded.
Yeah.
Because which brings me back to Jack Odell, because Kennedy asked him to fire him. So he was kind of banished. He worked for Freedom Ways magazine, which was like the thought journal for Johnson Publishing Company, the companion to Ebony and Jet. And so my father hired him. And
Mm.
he became the head of our international affairs division and helped to really shape our thinking and our worldview. I went to the World Youth Festival. That's where I met Yasser Arafat in person. He had been
Wow.
reaching out to, and this was 1978, and I was the youngest person in the delegation. But they gave me special dispensation because I was a mature child, and I had seen so much. He said
Makes sense. Yeah.
she's lived through a lot, so she's not the average 14-year-old. She's really, and I know she's going to be well behaved because I know her parents. And he was right because I mean, all I wanted to do was attend the festival, but that's where I met Yasser Arafat. That's where I met Mugabe. That's where I met Castro.
Wow.
Well, they came to me because they were paying tribute to my father.
Mm.
And I knew that. And I was very excited because these were my heroes, right? And Jack Odell, because I had that exposure to him, and because my mother's parents were migrant workers. And my mother's father was so angered by white racism in America. He was from the Caribbean. He went back. He never came back to the United States.
Oh, which part of the Caribbean?
The Ken Islands.
Oh, okay. My family's of Bayesian descent.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
And but I was afraid I was going to bump into him in Cuba because apparently he kind of made his way around. Because at that time that's what you did.
Yeah.
And so,
And
we
it
got.
wasn't. It's crazy how quick everything escalated, right? For Yasser Arafat and Muammar Gaddafi to be in the same place, and just to think about how they were portrayed after, right?
Oh.
It's crazy, and I imagine I always thought to myself before really everything unfolded post 2016. As I was learning more about history, I was like, wow, how could people have been so not ignorant? How could they have been so? And then I'm looking at it happen in real time, right? I'm 35 now.
Mhm.
I was about 25, 26 whenever I got involved with Bernie's campaign. And that's, for politics, that's actually really young. But I
Yeah.
had seen a lot. And I'm just like, okay, we might be hitting we might be hitting a crossroad. And it was somewhat of a crossroad, but it was not what I thought it was going to be. It took longer for us to arrive where we're at now, where there are probably more independent minded thinkers closer to when we how the country was in the 60s and the 70s. And it took cycles. And I said it would probably take about 3 presidential cycles before we get there, because people are going to believe that Bernie can save them in 2020 again. And it's just that we just have to do a little bit more, work a little bit harder. And he has a name recognition. And I'm like, yeah, but y'all don't understand. It's nothing to do with that. I mean, I watched them rig this election. They know who they're going to pick, and unfortunately, I knew Bernie is. The truth is, as a person who's like met him personally, knows his family, Bernie cares a lot about his personal image. There is with any politician, there's a little bit of ego involved, and Bernie did not want to be a pariah and be written in the
Well,
history books as such, right?
hold on, but also he had to. You're also preaching to the people in the last row.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not because you're an insider.
Yeah.
People
Exactly.
who way
So
out
I
there.
had to spoon feed. So I knew that. So I wasn't hard on people for
And wait a minute, and
supporting
they were
Bernie.
also, remember, trying to imprison his wife.
Yeah. That part,
We
exactly. I was aware of
people
that.
people forget. Oh, of course you were aware, but people
Hmm.
forget all this stuff. And
Hmm.
so you look, and he had also lived through our experience. Bernie Sanders was one of 2 white elected officials in all of the United States who endorsed Reverend.
Yeah, I
He
remember.
was he was punched in the face by a Jewish woman who said that he was a traitor to their people.
Which is
They
crazy, especially being from Brooklyn, because Jews in Brooklyn and Black people, they got along well. They fought together side by side a lot of times during the civil
and
rights
he
movement.
did, and he was one of those. But
Hmm.
but I'm saying, in furtherance of your point, it's an evolution.
Yeah.
The revolution is an evolution is embedded in the revolution.
Mm.
And so I might not see it in my lifetime, and I'm okay with that. As long as you, Nico, keep going, I'm good with it.
You
We've
might see it
done.
though. You
I
might
know.
see it the
No,
way
no.
things are looking, right?
Hold on. I might, but I'm just saying to you, I'm okay because, you know, like you, I've been in the room, and that's why I wanted to talk with you today about what you're seeing, because we now, it's been a it's this has been a very interesting cycle.
Hmm.
Now you've got, an escalation. We're on the verge of a world war, and
Well,
people.
I would make the argument we're already in one. It's just that now that people are about to be aware of it. I
Yeah.
felt like we've been in a world war for quite some time, maybe about 2 or 3
Mhm.
years.
I
But
think
now
I
it's about
think
to get
you're right.
loud.
Yeah, and we think, see, we don't know. It's not gonna. We keep thinking that it's gonna be boots on the ground here. Oh, darling, our grid is so vulnerable. You've got so many
Hmm.
internecine conflicts here.
Yep.
We're easy prey. So let me
And
just
we
say.
don't know the capabilities. The United States does not know the capabilities of their adversaries as much. I'm ex-military. I know that we don't know the capabilities of our adversaries. People that I know that are still in are aware of this. The special forces of the U.S. have been so effective in certain situations because they're just taking down people that we propped up with intelligence that we created because we put them there. Whether it be the cartels in Central and South America or Saddam Hussein in Iraq, a lot of the times the terrorists or the terrorist leaders that we go after, we created. Like we know their capabilities because, like for IEDs, for example, one of the things that was, it killed, I don't know, thousands of soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. The IEDs stands for improvised explosive devices. We gave them that. We taught them how to make them. So it's the thing is, you saw how we went into Iraq without hesitation almost. You saw how we went into Afghanistan with all the arrogance in the world, even with Syria, but we will not step foot in Iran. And I keep asking people, I'm like, so if we are who y'all think we are, and we feel like we could go into Iraq, even Libya, and just go in there and strut our stuff, why don't we do that with Iran? And everybody like, well, it's because it's different. Yeah, it's different, but not for the reasons you think it is. It's different because we don't know their capabilities. And we know they don't know. Or we know that we don't know. We don't know Russia's capabilities and we don't know Iran's capabilities. And that is why they can pay proxies to go and fight terrorists. Like Iran can pay proxies and support proxies without even sending their own military. Do you understand how advanced you have to be to be able to do that without even sending a single Iranian to go die? And you still run effective missions? The U.S. tries to do that. We can't do it, really, not anymore. We've done it to some success, to some degree of success with Iraq. They did it with Libya. They used terrorists from Chad that they paid to overthrow Muammar Gaddafi. But the reality of the situation is Iran is extremely effective and efficient. And we are in a situation where Israel's about to try and push us into a war that we don't know we can win.
Well, we haven't won anything since the Second World War. So, the fact is, Iran has been holding back for a reason.
Yep.
And we need to be very, very careful. That's why I want everybody, I want you to vote. And as my mother said, Nico, my parents have been married 63 years.
Ooh.
And my mother said, I would never marry someone I could not fight.
Ever.
And she said, and I will not vote for someone I cannot fight. And I listened to her because, my mother's not some woman who's been broken. My mother has been built up. She's very, very strong, tough woman. And when you elect someone, know that you got to fight them, because once they get into office, from the person who's the block club leader to the president, everyone who didn't support them, they now are the president. They are now the block club leader. They're now the county commissioner. They serve at the pleasure of everyone. That's just the reality. And so we have to be clear on the different realities that we're all in, Nico. And what I do is, with my Republican friends who have integrity, I'm saying those who have integrity, all I ask is that when you go in the room, they will call me and say, hey, I'm about to do this. What do you want me to say on such and such? Or kind of, where are we? I mean, that's how we need to work with each other. Because
I have friends who do the same thing. I have conservative friends who do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and because they trust in your integrity just as I trust in yours. So let me ask you, what do you think about this election? Because we see, for example, I'm going to have you back. Yeah, I mean, I only got 19 more minutes with you. I'm so mad, but this has been great. I just love you, but I want us to work on Vigilantes Inc. So I want us to do that. Because I think that could be something really special.
Yeah.
What about, I'm concerned about the vice president's polling numbers. One of the things that we learned during the Jackson campaign, and you saw it expressed during the Obama campaign, as a Black person, when you're running, you have to over-index with the Black population. Number one, your base of Black people have to be extremely excited about you. And you need to be polling in the mid-90s in order to have a chance. That is not where she is.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
50. She's what? Well, I think, but with people below 60, she's at 55 points or something.
I thought she was like at 78.
Or 78. That's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah.
Like 78.
It's nowhere near what Biden was, which is somewhat surprising.
She's underneath Biden. Well, it's not, because he was so unpopular, and she's gotten the blowback from that. I mean, he was very.
Well, I say it's surprising because I thought that whenever he was exposed on stage, ironically by Kamala as being a segregationist, you would think that there would be some blowback from that. But
no,
that's one of the flaws of our people, is that unfortunately they get behind the stardom, the star power of somebody else, and for Black people, an endorsement go a long way, and we know. Even though I'm not a fan of Barack Obama, but Barack Obama is damn near Black political Jesus to Black people, even people who have woken up. are still like, yeah, but you can't talk about Obama, right? So, and it's from my vantage point, part of the reason I think that she's not doing as well in the vote is actually somewhat due to the fact that Obama has not really given a full throated endorsement of her. He's endorsed her, but it's not the same thing, right?
He hasn't gone out with her.
He ain't going to exactly. Almost like he doesn't have. He's like, I'm not about to let you ruin. I'm not about to ruin my image messing around with you, with your 30 different accents, depending on who you're in front of, right? Barack Obama. The reason that I have so much animus towards this man is because he is such a smooth operator that if he starts talking, you will forget you don't like him. You will forget he helped overthrow Gaddafi. You will forget everything that he did not do when he was president of the United States. You'll forget Occupy Wall Street. You'll forget how he bailed out the banks. You'll forget all that because that's how good, like, Kamala Harris is not Barack Obama. And people, for some reason, are forgetting, like, beyond policy, beyond debate, the debate stage and everything like that, there is a factor that is qualitative that you can't put your finger on. But as a Black community, we know if you have it or not. We know if you're one of us. We know if you relate to us. And Kamala, in my opinion, there is like this coalition of people that have had to be hired and put together to convince Black people that she's one of us. The moment that was the case, she was not going to win the votes that she needed from the Black community to beat Donald Trump.
I don't know. I don't understand why people question her identity. And I'll tell you why.
Because it's because she put it forward as a reason. See, that's the difference with Obama. But let me never had.
Let me fully disclose. I went to college. Go ahead. Because I'll just fully disclose. Because I want you to know I went to college with her. I know her, and have liked her a lot. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that doesn't mean that I can't criticize you.
Yeah.
But I critique. And I criticize, I engage in critique in the name of helping you. So when I talk to people in her office, I'm like, you got to plug up this hole, this hole, this hole, and that hole, that hole, and that hole. Because also there's a reaction to what did not happen in the Obama presidency.
Yes, that is very true. That they really don't consider sometimes. That's very true.
No, I mean, because now we're asking for the first time in our history, we want to know, where are you from? No. Not being Black. No. Are you from Africa? Are you from the Caribbean? You from South America? Black folks now want to know.
As they say in California, it's like where your grandma stay. In other words, like where are you really from? Type of thing. Like what is your experience? Is what they're really asking you.
Yeah, and I saw that as almost as a counter. That's how a lot of what we experienced in that moment was countered. And I know the Obamas too very well. I was in their wedding. So I don't know how I got to know all these people. Don't ask me. But that's what happened.
Well, you was in Chicago. You was in the center of everything. So
No. His wife and I went to high school together.
What?
Yes. So I mean,
was she always that intelligent? Because Michelle, boy, I'm telling you, I told people back in the, like, whenever they were trying to figure out who was going to replace Biden, I said, for everybody who is thinking that it could be over, I was like, if she picks Michelle, if they pick Michelle, y'all don't have anybody. There's nobody that can beat her. She is. I'm not gonna say she's more intelligent than Barack, but she has this quality about her that she can do no wrong in the eyes of the majority of people. Like, she got something about her. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah,
it's charisma. It's a gift of the spirit, and she's someone who I like tremendously. Always have. That having been said, no matter who gets in, y'all, you need to ask what people stand for. Mm-hmm. See, because that is where we get caught up, because we're all caught up in the excitement of the moment. And I think this is great. Yeah. But if we do not ask the substantive issues about policy, we're going to be right where we are right now. Because right now, you ought to be suspicious of the fact that there's this love affair, this love fest for a Black woman and an Indian woman who is the embodiment of DEI while we're trying to eliminate it.
Exactly. I hate the fact that we even need DEI. I get pissed about it. I'm like, y'all, why did Joe Biden come out and say, I'm going to pick a Black woman no matter what? I didn't want you to do that. I wanted you to say, I'm going to pick the best qualified person. If that person just happened to be a Black woman, then great. If it's a Black man, great.
I don't have a problem with that. You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna do something we've never done before. I'm gonna bring her perspective in.
It,
I'm lifting that from his announcement speech in November 3rd, 1983.
mm-hmm.
He said, "This is a black campaign." He said, "I am." He said, "This is an American campaign, and I am a black candidate. For the first time, you will begin to see America from our perspective."
And that's different though. That
Well,
is making it very
but
clear what
that's
your intentions are with that black experience. We didn't
yeah,
get that with Obama. Well, it's not Obama. Excuse me. When Biden, but I'm gonna pick a black woman because what people assume when he says that is I'm about to consider the experience of black people and that's why I'm choosing her. But
yeah.
it's an assumption. It's not that. But he never
But
actually
that
indicated
was never what he's never done that his whole career. I mean, like, what do y'all want?
exactly.
I mean, stop. I mean, Nico. I mean, what? I mean, what? What are you talking about, man? What?
He supposed to go from a segregationist to a civil rights leader in one.
I am not. What? What you doing? It is what it is. Okay. And you know what? And what I do give him credit for doing is, in many ways, responding to the moment.
Mm-hmm.
He did get so much done that helped black people. And that is a great thing. Did we need more? I need police reform. I need my voting rights protected. I didn't have.
We need to overhaul the whole voting system. Honestly, that's a whole
Well,
different conversation.
are you not? My goodness! And you're not going to keep on having these conversations because we're going to, as they say, keep them a buck. And
Yeah,
Robert says Kamala was the most qualified in 2020. When y'all get through talking, I hear you. Look, let me tell you something, Robert. No one is maligning her. The fact is, Robert, you need to take this back to the barbershop because there's something she's not connecting with our people in a way that is getting her over the hump. All I've
hmm
ever tried to ask is why that is so you can help us here.
You
Help
want me to give
help
you
us.
a prime example?
Help us.
So, her husband is Doug Amoff, and he actually just got us celebrated by the J Post publication for being the most
Jerusalem Post.
influential. Yeah,
Mhm.
yes, for being the most influential Zionist in the country, right?
Mhm.
Principally because of the work that he has done to push AIPAC's and Israel's goals while being the second gentleman. Now, generally speaking, you would assume that the priorities of his partner, who is the vice president, would be his priorities. That's just kind of like a natural assumption, and is also it kind of follows suit to what we know to be true, given history. But you could it could be seen as one of two things: like he don't care about what she wants, or really, it's like it doesn't. She doesn't stand for anything, so he can do whatever he wants, and APAC, APAC's gonna get their way, or that is her priority. That which
Mhm.
is even scarier, right? So it's not like her being married to a white man or being married to a Jewish man is not the problem. The problem is you happen to be married to the most influential Zionist in the world right now, apparently. And with that power, what have you done to help the people whose votes you're asking for?
Touche.
Because we know that Zionists have power. This is not news to anybody. And it's not even necessarily a bad thing. I say it's
I'm
important
not
for
mad
every
at you.
demographic to have a coalition. I've always said that. But
Yeah.
what have you done to use the power? I always say the thing about privilege is once you have it, you're not judged on how much privilege you can gain and whether or not you have it. It's who do you lift up with it once you receive it.
No, it's
And
not for you. And Robert, let me respond. I know you didn't say that we were maligning her. I didn't. I don't, because I'm not maligning you. Uh, what I'm simply saying is we have to be able to engage in critique.
mhm.
Got to be able to criticize. Not being able to criticize her, you support her, I support her, but guess what? A lot of people do not.
Yeah, I don't support her. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, and you know what, and I'm not gonna block you from the show, I didn't call you in advance and say, hey, shh,
but
don't do
it's
that.
important.
No,
But it's important for people. If you support a candidate, guys, and somebody disagree, you might want to find out why that person doesn't support them. Because I promise you, that person is speaking for the 10 people who just don't want to speak about it. Because maybe they don't want to hear your mouth. Maybe they don't want to hear your complaints. Maybe they don't want to argue with you because they don't feel like it's worth it. Right? Like I always say, the
like the
people
Trump supporters.
which they learned in 2016, right? They learned that. They were like, why are our polls so off? Because every time they say I'm going to support Trump, you think that means they support everything he does and everything he's going to do. And sometimes it's as simple. I met a wonderful couple at Politicon. These people were amazing. They were Trump supporters. They said, we just supported him because he was avidly against NAFTA. NAFTA destroyed our family.
Absolutely.
Not just, and that was the one issue they cared about. They're like, and then they started to list off to me everything that they disliked about Trump, which kind of threw me off. I'm like, damn, I didn't even know that y'all. She's like, no, we don't like any of these things, and we speak out about this stuff, and we want him to change. That's part of the reason why we came to Politicon, to see if other people felt the same way. But for them, NAFTA changed their lives. A lot of them, they lost out on retirements. Unions got destroyed. Their jobs were shipped off. Their cities were no longer the same. The opportunity for their kids were no longer the same. And a lot of them had to move to areas, the younger generation moved to areas like California, New York, Florida, to find opportunities that previously had always been guaranteed in Indiana, in Illinois. So and they said, we don't like to tell people that we voted for Trump sometimes. They got over it, but they're like, before we didn't want to tell anybody because they think that us supporting him meant we support everything. And to them, it felt like it was almost like people were diminishing how important that issue is to them. And it's important to understand that one, especially when you talk, because that issue actually affected the entire economy. But we can't diminish how important an issue is to somebody just because it's not one of our primary issues. And so it's important to be willing to have conversations with people that may not support your candidate because you need to understand why they're not supporting them. And sometimes you might find out the truth about something that you thought that candidate supported that they actually don't support.
Because he fought to end NAFTA, and he was thwarted from it. They wouldn't let him sign the papers.
Yep, but he prevented TPP. Thank God.
And that does not mean that I support him. But a broken clock can be right twice a day.
Yep.
So, I mean, enough of that already. And people are lying because guess what? He got 12 million more votes in 2020 than he got in 2016.
Yeah.
And guess what? And he's going to get more than that this time for a whole lot of reasons. And in the meantime, while we're sitting up here having these celebrations, many of us are not eating.
Exactly.
The cashier.
Look at right now. What's going on with the hurricane response right now? Because we have to remember, Kamala Harris is in office right now. Okay, Joe Biden is, I guess, sometimes in office. I guess if he, I don't know if he's actually there. That's a different conversation.
What Mayorkas said? Mayorkas said we don't have enough money.
Yeah, after we just sent $16 billion to Israel and Ukraine.
He said we don't have enough money to deal with these disasters. Y'all, wait a minute. Biden is still president, like the point you just made, for 3.5 more months.
Yep, at least.
And there's some things. At least you're right. And we don't, and let me tell you, Kamala Harris serves at his pleasure. That's the reality. She is not going to jump out here ahead of him. She can't do that. And you know what? I'd have a problem with her if she did that because you got to dance with the one who brung you. Now, does she need to find?
Well, right now, I actually think that it would be better for her to jump out ahead of him because of how the whole situation went down with her becoming nominee. Like it wasn't really.
Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't really.
I mean,
in my opinion, it was kind of necessary. He should have stepped down already. It should have been his choice to step down from the beginning because he said he wanted to serve one term. He was being hard-headed, basically.
When Norman Solomon and Jeff Cohen and Ruth's Action said, "Don't run, Joe," it was blasphemous.
Yeah,
they had that campaign for 2 years. They said it's clear that he's having some struggles.
Yeah. Barack Obama told him not to run the first time.
So, I mean, and you're right. I hadn't even really thought about the fact that they're not I think that it would mean a lot if he went out with her, with his arms around her. And oh my gosh, if Michelle went out with her, it would be a wrap.
But but I'm telling you, it's something off. There's something off about that relationship that is not public. It's not really publicized, but they don't have the confidence. And I can't tell you why. Well, you also know that Barack didn't have the best relationship with Netanyahu or Israel. So if her husband
Nobody
is
has a good relationship with him. I mean, he didn't have a good relationship with Clinton. He does not get along with anybody. Netanyahu.
Yeah, I mean, well, because like for my criticism of Barack Obama, like he was a victim of genuine racism. They treated him like he was a black man. Let's not get it twisted. I have my criticisms of him, but I also understand he's a black man operating within the white power structure, and there are things that you have to deal with regarding that, and that's why Michelle didn't get along with anybody, and that she didn't get along with nobody, and it was very obvious.
Well, I don't think it was the black thing as much as the wife, and I can tell you that given my mother's position, no one likes the wife, and no one likes the family, because you're too close. You have the final say.
Yeah.
What my brother who's in Congress now, my second brother to be in Congress, he was one of the original signatories on Cori Bush's ceasefire legislation.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
18. He's one. Oh yeah. But his son, Noah, I love that boy. My nephew said, Jonathan said, my brother said, I had to sign it. He said, because I had to come home because my children wouldn't let me back in the house. We were laughing.
Hey, look now.
Noah said, absolutely. You weren't going to come back in here. But our history was going to have him do it. But it was something we all got. It was Thanksgiving. We all got a big laugh out of it. But he's been blocked from business councils.
That's what happened.
And he's like, he said, what can I do? He said, this was the right thing to do, and I'm done with it. But in the meantime, much of his constituency, it's the farm belt. That's what we do in the Midwest. When you leave Chicago, Nico, they don't play Shania Twain and Darius Rucker. They play Hank Williams and Patsy Cline.
Oh wow, that's a
country and western.
Yeah, they'll play that pop country. They play in country.
Country. We farm here, and when you walk into a little restaurant out there, because my great aunt, who was out there in a facility till we got her in the city, and my great aunt looked like a white woman. No one knew she was white. She didn't hide that she was black, just no one knew. And so when all these black folks would show up to see her, they just thought that, she had been a nice teacher or something. And so I went to this restaurant because she had been taking a test. And so I said, let me go get something to eat and I'll go back and see her. She's my great aunt. She's declining. Mm-hmm. And, honey, I walked in this restaurant. You know how everything freezes? Stop. And everybody looks at you and you're like, okay. I need to get out of here, but will the Uber come back and get me?
Yeah, that happened to me in West Virginia one time. That definitely that happened. I was like, I said, hey, because my brother, so we're mixed, right? My grandma is French. Her dad is full French, and then her mom is half Creole, half black. So we're mixed. And my brother, I'm the darkest out of my siblings actually. And we went to a restaurant. It was like a fast food restaurant. Driving back from Colorado, and we just had to stop in West Virginia because we needed gas and food. And me and my brother looking around. I'm like, "Hey, Q, is everybody looking at us crazy?" And he was like, "Bruh, yeah, and they're definitely looking at you specifically." I was like, "Damn, they are looking." Well, I was like, "Why do you think that is?" Because I lived in North Carolina for so long. I actually, and maybe for like the last 4 years in in high school, I forgot that racism was a big deal outside of, because I lived in Fayetteville, and everybody's mixed there. Yeah. Everybody's mixed. So I'm like, it's like money was more of an issue than your race. Yeah. I'm like, hold up, you think that they met? And then my mom walks in and she's like, "Yo, we gotta go." I was like, "For real?" Because she wanted to sit down and eat. She was the main one saying sit down and eat. She was like, "No, we gotta go. We gotta get up out of here." Like, okay. And then she said in the car, she's like, "Y'all didn't see how they were looking at us?" I said, "Yeah, I thought it was just because of the way I dressed or something." She's like, "No, that wasn't it."
No, we needed. Hey, we've been in that because there are pockets in the South, because that's where my father's people are from, where everybody's so-called mixed race. Mm-hmm. In fact, the only person who wrote the only authorized biography of my father is by Marshall Frady, an award-winning journalist, an icon. Mm-hmm. And he was a white man from Greenville, South Carolina, which is where my father's from. He knew of my father's family, and you know how he described them? They were of dubious racial background. And when he wrote that, I asked Mr. Frady, I said, what was about? He said, because we were not sure if your father's people, if some of them looked white, but some of them were white.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
I guess that happens.
because they had crossed the color line, they just let people assume that they were black so they could keep their family safe. So he was telling
Mm.
me things about my family that I didn't even know.
You know that happened to my grandma.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that happened. My grandma, she was the whitest out of her siblings. I mean, her siblings weren't all that dark either. She was the whitest, and she got treated like, I mean, like trash by both sides because she lived in Berkeley at the time, and she was getting treated trash by both sides, and she got really jaded by it actually.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
and there was to this day, my grandma did not have a good relationship with her dad, and it actually affected her for the rest of her life. And there's a large possibility it's because she behaved blacker, quote unquote, than her siblings did, and then her dad was most likely her dad was racist. She didn't want to say it because we only met him once, met him one time. And my grandma never took us back, and I was kind of confused by that. And we saw my great grandma many times, but we only saw my grand, and they were married. It's not like they were divorced or anything. But we only saw my great grandfather one time, and she does not like him. She did not like him to the day she died, and that probably had a lot to do with it. And I did, but you don't realize how big of a deal that was back in the day. Right now, it's not a big deal. And I
No,
live
but
in Brazil. It's not even. It's expected actually for your family to have like white people, black people, dark people, cafe color. Like it's normal here. But in the U.S. back
it's
then,
normal in the United States. It's just it's not it's and but let's not even talk about Brazil where you're encouraged to marry. You want to whiten up the race, but
no, in Brazil they don't. No, in Brazil, black people are proud. It's. I mean, I've
well,
never seen
but
a.
that's something that's something that they've been working on for a long time.
Yeah.
You know,
That's true. That's true. But it's like the white people do want to marry other white people. But like even that within the white people, they kind of have like a problem now that they want to leave they don't, it's a cultural thing. Like we don't really have anything to celebrate. But the black people here, they have their own complete different vibe. Black Brazilians are just like, it's so much, they're just so much fun. Like I don't know, I don't know how to describe
well,
how they,
I've performed down there, and Lula brought Reverend down there to campaign for him.
oh, really?
Oh yeah, because he was trying to bring out the black vote because there is a black consciousness that's about 15, 20 years old.
Yes.
Because in fact, Ebony, dig it up, used to do articles on Brazil because many of the fairer skinned Brazilians would obscure their African ancestry. But
Yes.
they've grown as the black diaspora has grown. I mean, I'm not slamming anybody. We're all on this journey together. I'm gonna have to get out of here. Nico, I got when you no, we gotta talk because I want us to do this Vigilantes Inc. I want you to see it.
Yeah.
But go
Send me the link. Send me the link.
I'm gonna send it to you, saveyourvote.org, because I want you to see it and it is great. But I just think you are just a fantastic, fantastic young man.
Well,
I'm gonna
thank you
give you
very much. I
this
appreciate it.
final minute. What you gotta say?
I just would say that it is important for everybody to vote because at the end of the day, it's about accountability. You can never say that your vote was taken or if you were removed from a voter or whatever if you never make any attempt to show up, right? And also just know that that's a part of the activism. You can't be like, oh, I voted, so the change I gotta expect the change to come tomorrow. It's not how it works. The change that you seek, you got to be that change, and that's just the final step or the first step in a list of things that you need to do to fight for the change that you want. So and also shout out to all the victims right now that are dealing with this hurricane situation.
Oh boy.
Unfortunately, our leaders right now think that it's more important to send generators and transformers out to Ukraine than they do to send them out to North Carolina and Georgia and places where they need them right now. And just remember that in November. You need to remember all that. And
Remember that.
remember that the ballot does not include one office. It's more than just the president. And I promise you, those commissioners, those city council members, the school board members, they will affect your lives a lot more than whoever's going to be sitting at the top of that ballot come November. So that's why it's also important to vote.
Demand that they get that money to the people who were impacted by Hurricane Helene. It's the
Hmm.
second worst hurricane to hit our shores since Hurricane Katrina. These
Hmm.
people don't have cell phones right now. They don't have electricity right now. They don't have drinkable or bathable water right now.
And I
And
would encourage, and I would just encourage everybody who was as loud whenever Bush just failed the the people of New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. I need y'all to be just as loud. I know you may be y'all people in office right now, but I still need y'all to be just as loud because accountability shouldn't belong to a party. Accountability is accountability.
There's that. It doesn't belong to a party. This is about power, everybody. This
Mm-hmm.
is me, and power and politics is about getting the power shared amongst your people. That's what it is.
Amen.
That's why what you do is you demand of a Republican and a Democrat and a Green Party member, anybody
Mm-hmm.
who wants your vote, you have demands of them. Don't turn your back on
Yep.
on the Republicans. No, 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 no. Somebody's gonna run, and you need to make them accountable to you.
Yep.
Period.
Every time. Especially if they win. Especially if they win. Not that during the election, especially if they win. Like, oh, you like keeping that office? Okay, so I guess you're gonna do what I got do. You're gonna do what I tell you, huh?
Because I'm paying you and you represent me. I might not have wanted you, but guess what? Um, I'm gonna tell you something. I want the money, Robert, that is in the kitty. The Pentagon doesn't need another dime. Send that money to the United States.
Amen.
Okay? That's what we need. So I'm not gonna worry about Trump is not your problem. Trump is a symptom.
He is a
But
symptom.
all these people are symptoms of a deeper problem that we've got. And I
Yep.
love it. Nico, saveyourvote.org. I'm going to send you a link once I get out of here because they want to charge me another day. And
They probably don't forgot about you, to be honest with you. They don't
No,
forget.
they
They say that, but they probably don't forgot about you. They just need to know who the clean lady just needs to know the rounds before they get
wait a minute,
fired.
watch this. But look at that, because I really want us to get together and do. I think it would be a great thing, because I think it would be great for you to pull some of our brothers and sisters in Brazil and elsewhere together, so that we can merge people and do and look at the film together. Let me speak with Greg and figure out how to do that, and then we can have a discussion about it.
That sounds great. That sounds
Because we
great.
need to look at, because they are purging us like crazy. Vote.org, everybody. Please go check your voting status. Make sure that you're still on the rolls. If you find out that you've been kicked off, stay on that site, get re-registered. It doesn't take but a couple of minutes, and then find out when the window closes. The window closes in South Carolina today, and it closes all around the country by Monday, the 7th. So get out there and vote, and follow Nico House, everybody. He is absolutely brilliant, and I just love this young man and haven't even met him yet.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that.
My love to your family.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Same to you. Same to you. Have safe travels.
Thank you. God bless you. Goodbye.